Yes, people, we are Spurs Talk Show back here again on this bright and early Thursday, September the 1st. And it's the 2022 version of such said date. How's everybody doing? This is a quick impromptu show with my man, Adam William Kay, who I'll be bringing in just in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the player ratings after last night's stalemate. 1-1. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are as we go through each of the individual players. Hope everyone is doing okay. How is everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Ladies and gentlemen, the Spurs Talk Show starts right now. Lovely touch from him though. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance, Matt Doherty! Oh, you shite! And there could be from the dead to the don't fuck it up now, Go and win it! Let's go for chance! Stephen Bergwijn through! Win it, Stephen! Come on! Yes! He's won it! He's gonna win it! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh! We did it! Yo, check this out. How's everybody doing? Welcome. It is transfer deadline day. The last chance to get any new faces into our team, into our squad. And according to most, how we need them. We're going to be talking about that maybe at the end if we've got time. This is a quick and an impromptu show. Because my man, let me bring him in right away, Adam William Cahill. What's happening, Adam? How you doing, my man?
Not too bad, buddy. How you getting on?
Yeah, good, buddy. Good. Because you got to be gone at 11:30. We need to get cracking. So absolutely. We're not going to talk. We might talk about the transfer window stuff, but there's all day long to talk about that.
That's true.
But how do you? Let's start with the game itself. 1-1 last night. A frustrating affair. First half was far better than the second half. I think everyone would agree. But honours even at the end. What were your thoughts on the game? Was it a fair result? Were we lucky?
No, I don't think we were lucky at all. I think that we outperformed them throughout the game. Yes, our first half, strangely, compared to previous games this season, was better than the second half, which is not normally the way we perform. We normally kick it into a higher gear in the second half. But I think the fact that I think we controlled the game for the most part for its entirety. It was they never looked like winning. Do you know what I mean? It was just very unfortunate that I think Conte said it perfectly when he said for 85 minutes you have a team that are sharp and they're on it. And for 5 minutes, there's a lapse in concentration. And then suddenly, it's unfortunate we weren't able to score more than one goal ourselves, and we easily could have. Yeah. But they were able to just kind of claw one during a period where we lost concentration. You could blame, badly. Yeah, you could blame a lot of things for that. You could blame you could call it shoegate or bootgate. With Højbjerg and his shoe falling apart in the middle of the pitch and not really getting that dealt with as quickly as he could. He also was the one who lost his mark
He lost the ball as well before it went back to
Yeah.
Hugo Lloris for that shoddy little pass out to give away the throw-in.
Yeah, and listen, look, considering the amount of shite that I get from Soren for Højbjerg bashing, I could go to town. I could absolutely go to town on that situation if I wanted to. But I think that, like, fair's fair. Højbjerg has performed significantly better than in the preseason. I'm not gonna bash him too much for that, considering that he has done very, very well in the first first 5 games aside from that incident. But you do, like, again. Fair's fair. You got to put the blame where it belongs. Højbjerg was very, very responsible for that slip up. But again, we were controlling that game for the most part, and I'm not concerned about getting a draw at West Ham. At the end of the day, we have to remember it's 8 points from fixtures that last season we got 0. It's an improvement.
Just quickly though, I don't want to let everybody else get off the hook, mate, on that for that the goal that we conceded. Yes, Højbjerg was responsible, but Perisic, like Højbjerg was talking to the referee. Like Hugo Lloris, his distribution. I mean, what the hell was that in the first place?
So bad.
Perisic was turning and was just like looking and dawdling as the ball got thrown over his head. Ben Davies was marking nobody. Like it was
tons of ball watching going on.
Tons of ball watching. Some people weren't even watching the ball or anything. They were just like, taking their time. Fair play to the West Ham ball boy and to the West Ham players for acting quick and taking advantage. And that was for me the moment in the game where everything changed. Right, until that moment we were on top of the game. As soon as that happened, the crowd lifted and the energy in the West Ham team was lifted. And then from then on, whilst we got back into it and started to control the ball a little bit more, I think you'd have to concede, even if you were a staunch Tottenham fan, that as the game got into its final stages, if anyone was going to score, it was likely to be West Ham, and they almost did in the final couple of minutes with their new guy Paqueta getting obviously the language barrier problem with him and Emerson. Nobody calling for it when the ball got rolled back into. They had acres of space. Either of them could have taken that ball and just passed it into the net. They didn't. And then obviously what happened in the last seconds of the game when the ball rolled across the inches away from the goal line because of Jared Bowen's very clever kind of sliced hook shot.
And if Antonio had a little bit more reaction, he would have got a toe to that and it would have been in the back of the net.
Yeah. So I think on balance, you have to say that like in the last 10, 15 minutes, it was us that was hanging on,
Yeah, I still think that we were running the show predominantly, and we're doing it at their ground. For them to, it only makes sense that when they're playing and they've got nothing to lose, they're gonna in their home stadium and with the fans behind them, screaming for them. They're gonna end up putting in doing the hard yards at the end of the match and trying to go for that win. And we were very fortunate to make sure that didn't happen. But I still, I'm not. I feel like we're still kind of getting the train rolling. We're not up at full speed yet. We still got players who are trying to bed in. We still got we're shaking off a little bit of. I don't know whether it's the fatigue from preseason, because that was a pretty grueling preseason. It could be a number of factors, but the fact is we're behaving like a top team, though. Do you know what I mean? We're even when we're not performing incredibly well, we are scraping. We're clutching and grasping at points that we weren't able to even attempt to take away last season. So I'm still very optimistic, and I would still be massively encouraging the Spurs fandom to not get frustrated at what we're seeing at the moment. 8 points.
Yeah.
Where we got 0 last season. It's still, progress is progress, whatever way it looks.
Yeah, and I also want to take a look. I want to just put, before we get into the player ratings, I just want to put and I'm going to go into more detail on this later on my show with Dave this evening, if that's happening at 6 p.m. But I do want to say, I completely understand. Sometimes when I hear opinions in the Tottenham community, very occasionally, I'm just diametrically opposed to my own. I'll sit there and go, I can't get my head around why you think like that. I can't understand how you see it that way. And I'm absolutely certain some people listen to my opinions and feel the same way. When it comes to what's happening right now with Club Tottenham Hotspur, whether it's the transfer window whether it's the start to the season, the performances, the backline, whatever the current topic is. Like, I 100% completely understand and can appreciate and acknowledge the validity of people who have the opposite opinion to me. I understand why people are worried about the performances. I understand why people are worried about the window compared to other things. I get it. It's not the way I choose to view it. And it's more of a decision to not view it that way than a feeling. Like, because I feel like there's just as many positives and reasons to be optimistic in my mind, for example, as there are to be the opposite. To be, I don't want to say the word negative; it's a trigger word right now. But like, words like pessimistic or glass half full versus glass half empty, concern versus content, whatever. I personally feel like you just said, having 8 points more. We spoke all summer about the fact that we needed to figure out how to claim back the 25 points that we dropped to unnecessary teams playing low block, right? West Ham away was one of those. I wouldn't put Chelsea in that bucket, but certainly Wolves and Southampton were in those buckets. We've already clawed back 8 points or 7 points from the 25 that we dropped. We've got an additional point from Chelsea that we otherwise would never normally get. So there's plenty of reasons to think that, like, if we're already in third place, and for what it's worth, we have had, arguably, I think if you look at the first 5 games of every team, the only team that I think have probably had a tougher opening 5 fixtures is probably Nottingham Forest, because they've had to play Tottenham and Manchester City, and I think one other team from the top 6 as well, right? So Nottingham Forest, considering how tough their start is, I think they've done relatively well. Mm-hmm. But apart from that, Tottenham have had a fairly decent, a very tricky opening 5 games, and to come away from that being in third position, I think is reasons to be optimistic, considering that we haven't got out of second gear.
100%.
Now we could look at it and say, but we're playing badly, like we can't keep getting away with it. Or we could look at it and say, we just haven't clicked yet. Imagine how good we're going to be when we click. And I personally, because Tottenham takes up so much of my attention, Adam, I don't want to view things about Tottenham in unnecessarily glass half empty viewpoints, because it would spoil my week. It would spoil my mental health. So I'd rather look at it in a way, if I can, if there's reasons to be optimistic, I'd rather look at it in that vein. And I think you probably fall under the same banner. Is that fair?
I do, absolutely, and but I don't think that it's just a case of being kind of willfully positive. I think that there's plenty of reasons. There are more reasons to be positive than negative. That you got to remember as well that, like, we're, in as much as we're not playing great and it's kind of scrappy at times, we're not conceding very many goals, and the problem at the moment is that in a team that we're smashing other teams 5-1, 4-0, and whatever at the end of last season, we haven't got our scoring boots on at the moment the way that we had at the end of last season. When Sonny is firing, when Kulusevski is firing, when Richarlison opens his account, we'll be putting teams away the same as we did last season, because, as I said, we're not conceding very many. It's not as though we're not getting smashed. If we conceded a clumsy goal every game, but we were putting 2, 3, 4, 5 away, no one will be saying anything. Do you know what I mean? So it's a case of taking our chances. West Ham yesterday were camped in their half of the pitch most of the time. They were playing very, very defensively. They did a very good job at making sure that our attacking players didn't put them to bed completely. And again, we're away at West Ham. You're expecting that to be an absolute slog, and we didn't look terrible, regardless of what you want to say.
We didn't look terrible, not in the first half. I thought we were doing lovely triangles, very, very processed, very methodical passing that eventually sliced through them. And if it hadn't been for better decision making, once again, the front three got themselves in good positions. We got the ball to them more than enough times in the first half. Just some poor decision making again from key players that ultimately sort of dropped the ball.
And Perisic is looking shit hot going forward, by the way. Like, he looks a much better proposition than Sessegnon going forward, and it seems to be like that left side of the pitch. That's where we tend to when we're in possession. It's a distorted
3-4-3 right now. It's skewed. We're pushing everything down the left.
Absolutely. When we're in a when we're attacking, when we're in possession, where that our 3-4-3 skews a little bit, so that Perisic gets forward and it kind of becomes a 4 up the front. Emerson, we know, isn't capable of doing that. He's much more defensive. But it ends up going kind of pivoting into kind of more of a, because Davis starts getting forward then as well. It kind of goes to a 4-2-4 in a way, and it's Perisic is looking very, very strong. As much as you're correct in saying that Perisic didn't have a great, he had a bit of a kind of a. He's a few ball watching moments.
You'd give him like an 8 out of 10 for his offensive stuff, but you'd have to knock him down a penny or two, point or two, because of his defensive frailties.
Yeah.
Just before we get into it, before we get into the player ratings, what I do want to just take a look at, because I saw a lot of shows last night, and a lot of people in Twitter were talking about. Oh, let me get rid of that for a second. We're talking about the bench that we had, right? And how it's not something that looks particularly strong or any stronger than it did last season. And we look at the names on it: Matt Doherty, Skip, Richarlison, Sessegnon, Foster, Spence, Tanganga, Sarr, and Longley. You could make the argument that the only person on that pitch who is any kind of option up front or in the forward line is Richarlison, right? And I get that. It's a fair statement. You could maybe say that Jed Spence could do something, but he's a wing back, so we're not going to include that. But I just want to. I left this voice memo on my WhatsApp group this morning as well when I saw people going back and forth. I just want to point out to everybody. And by the way, guys, smash the like button if you haven't already. Please, let's help the channel grow. Let's try. There's 40 people watching. Let's try and get to 40 likes. I really appreciate it if you just even if you don't agree with what we're saying. Hope you can appreciate we're spending some time talking about it for you on this Thursday morning. I want to get rid of that banner so I can show you properly. Here we go. So I want to remind everybody that when we played our peak football last season, we had Matt Doherty on the right-hand side, which offered more balance offensively. Like to your point just now, Adam, right? We are at the moment limited by the fact that we have Emerson Royale, who everyone admits is not nowhere near good enough going forward, and Davinson Sanchez, who's nowhere near good enough. And we look at the stats at passing as Ben Davies or Eric Dyer, and you could make the argument that neither Ben Davies nor Eric Dyer are great either, but definitely Sanchez isn't when it comes to more progressive stuff. But I think it's worth remembering that we have been very, very unfortunate with how our injuries have shaped already in the first 5 games of the season. We are only 5 games in, and we've had to use a backup centre back, our third most important player in our team, arguably maybe our second most important player in the team, has been missing for 60% of our Premier League games. Matt Doherty, who was the person who created and scored all those goals and created all those chances down the right-hand side in that period of 7 games last season when we were looking absolutely on fire, he's coming back. For whatever reason, he was rushed in for 20 minutes or 45 minutes against the K-League All-Stars. God only knows why. He's coming back from a very, very serious long-term knee injury, and they rushed him back in the first game of pre-season, and it twisted and niggled something. He might be on the bench, but I don't think he's anywhere. I think he's there to fill a number because he literally isn't anywhere near fit enough, in my opinion. Oliver Skip, another player that could otherwise have come on. If he was fully fit, like he was when he was firing for us last season, he could come on and create things in the midfield. Again, somebody who's coming back from a relatively long-term injury. Richarlison's fine. Then we move down where the last bench we had Bissouma on it because Bentancur's out injured. We've also got somebody in, like I said, Romero, who's out injured. We've also got somebody in Heung-min Son who might as well be injured because he pales in the comparison to where we were last season. Now, that's not a tactical thing. That's not a team sheet thing. That's probably an individual thing. I mean, there is an argument to say that it could be some of the tactics that are throttling or suffocating his ability to use his assets correctly. But generally speaking, that's an individual thing and nothing else, right? So there's seven names that would otherwise be involved in first team football at Tottenham that within the first 4 or 5 games of the season have not been involved at all or could not be involved, whether it's because they're physically unfit or tactically naive in the case of Bissouma. Conte said so himself, right? So I think when everyone's looking at the bench and saying this is the worst bench, look how weak we are compared to other teams haven't got 7 of their first team players on some sort of restricted performance or restriction because of injuries. And I just think it's worth remembering that we have had a really unfortunate start to the season with the carryover from last season's injuries, and then players starting out this term and getting unlucky as well. So I just want to again take the glass half full approach here and try and remember that if everybody was fully fit, if everybody was firing, then we would have many more options than we currently do. And to have 7 players out already is like nobody's fault. That's just unluck. It's bad luck. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think to your point about only having Richarlison to come off the bench in terms of an attacking prospect. Moura is injured at the moment. Moura would have been on the bench otherwise. So that would have been another attacking.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Lucas Moura. Sorry, I forgot all about him. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Another one. Yeah,
yeah. If he had been fit, he'd have been on the bench as well as another option to come on and give us a little bit of pace. Richarlison came on and he was absolutely tremendous in terms of injecting pace and injecting energy and life into the team going forward. We had another couple of chances simply because he was there and he was bombing on and he was doing what he does. So yeah, no, I agree. Like, we've been very, very unfortunate with Skip's injuries. We've been very unfortunate with what happened to Bentancur in the last game. We were so lucky that Højbjerg's twisted ankle didn't seem to turn into anything. When we were going in at halftime, it was like, oh shit, is that another central midfielder?
And who knows? But who knows if he played on injured? Like, if you saw that in slow motion, I don't know how anyone walks away from that without having.
That's a twisted ankle, man. That's a sprained ankle at best.
Yeah.
At best. And the fact that he played on, I don't know whether they just gave it like some super freeze spray or whatever. Who knows what they did. But the fact that he was willing to play on, fair play to him, because he was hobbling quite a bit before as we were coming to the halftime whistle. Look, we've been very unfortunate in that sense, and yet we were still able to come away with a point yesterday, and we would have come away with the 3 points had it not been for a little bit of a lapse in concentration, potentially due to the spectacle of the whole shoe of Bootgate. So like it's I think that there's literally no reason to be. I look at that bench and I still see, even though I have players injured, I still see a better bench than what we had last season. Definitely. If we had any issues there in the midfield, you have the option of Sarr or Skip to come on. If Højbjerg did end up having a worse injury than it seemed to turn out to be. You're right in what you're saying. Like, some of the players we're just waiting for them to get back into form again. Matt Doherty could have been a proposition coming on. If we want
the reason he didn't is clearly because he's like, I genuinely think he's not fit enough, right? Like, he can't.
He's probably not.
Like, there was an option there to take off Emerson and bring him on, right? It didn't happen. I think he's not fit. I think he's making up the numbers, but he's not fit. He's not fit enough.
There's also the fact that like later on, we've got to play Fulham. Like, we've got 6 games in 20 days, and Conte said in his press conference last night he wants to start rotating immediately because he has to, because we're playing 2 games a week now, and when we've got Fulham on, I think it's Saturday, is it? It's Saturday, not Sunday. I think that he is gonna he's thinking to himself, Fulham, right? So I can see Clement Longley playing on Saturday. I can see Jed Spence playing on Saturday, and maybe he's thinking to himself he wants to have a really fresh team ready to go out and give them a thrashing. And like, at the end of the day, we do have to trust whatever Conte is trying to do, because he's changed, he's revitalized the team, he's changed everything. So if he thought Richarlison was the only change he wanted to make, so be it. And we would have won that game were it not for that very, very sloppy the way we handled the throw in. I'm not concerned about our bench currently, and especially the fact that that I can't see us getting to the end of this evening and not getting in a player or two. I think I
think we'll sign somebody today.
Yeah, I think so. And I think
I don't think it's going to satisfy some people. And like I say, I totally appreciate. I can appreciate where people are coming from. It's usually, I'm like, when I hear a different opinion, I'm like, I can't. I think that's just there's a positivity bias. But on this particular point, like, I think that every opinion is valid on this one, because I think you could easily view it in a bunch of different ways.
I don't mind anyone not being disappointed with us not having more transfers, but what I will say is you can't just do what Chelsea are trying to do now and have a scattergun approach where it's like, let's go out and buy this expensive player and that renowned player and try and get them to mesh as a team. What Conte has done is he's got the players that he felt he needed to strengthen the squad, to give it a bit of depth, and that could work well together. And we see how we get on over the next few months. And when we got to buy someone else in January, and we will, do you know what I mean? We will be buying players in January. We will buy players next summer. Yeah. We need to see how these players get on together, and then not be wasteful with our spending, and end up lumbered with players that we've spent big money on and then can't get rid of, like Lo Celso and Ndombele.
Or Dan James.
Well,
I heard what you said earlier about Dan James, mate. Like if it's a Conte signing, if Conte wants him, then it's all right. Right. It's all right with you, right? Like, and that should be the argument, I think, for most people. You can still have an opinion on the player. I don't think James would be a utility player.
No,
he's not. I know he's not a wow player. He's not going to get anyone excited. But I don't think he's that bad a player. Every time I've seen him play, I think he's done well.
Dan James could be our James Milner, to be honest. He easily could. He could come in and he could play anywhere in what I call the arrow in the front five, realistically. Now, I probably wouldn't stick him in a number 9, right? But you could easily play him on left wing back, right wing back, left or right forward, or as an attacking midfielder, for example. You could play him in any of those positions, and he's just a utility guy. I'm not saying I want him. I don't want him either. Conte wants him. I'd say it's for that very purpose. It's a utility player. If you need someone to come on and do a job in any of those positions, he's there as a backup. And that's all
please, guys, if for the 40 people that are watching, if we do sign him, right, can we get behind him? Because if I was Dan James right now and I was looking on Twitter, I wouldn't want to come to Tottenham.
Exactly.
You know?
And maybe that's what everybody wants.
I'm walking into like an environment where I'm just not wanted.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, let's get behind these players. If they wear a shirt, we should all support them. And I don't particularly want him either, but if he comes in, then I don't think you'll see that many minutes anyway, to be honest. I think it will be.
It's like I was saying, I said in the WhatsApp group earlier, if we were going out to have a Eric Dyer, a challenger for Eric Dyer's spot to give him a little bit of kick up the hole, and we were trying to sign Harry Maguire, I'd be losing my shit. Do you know what I mean? And if we were trying to sign someone who was someone that we wanted to improve on a position, and we were signing someone who was underwhelming, I'd be frustrated. Dan James is not someone that you're bringing in to replace anybody. Dan James is someone you're coming in to bolster the team, to give it a little bit more depth, so you can bring someone on when you need them in certain situations. We don't know that we're definitely going for him, but let's calm down until we end up buying someone who's a complete and utter ridiculous proposition. Dan James wouldn't be a crazy position. He's just squad depth. He's not replacing someone important.
100%, my man. All right, look, you've only got 15 minutes. If we don't manage to squeeze through, I can carry on until we have. But let's try and push through some of these player ratings, my man. Yeah. Let's have a quick look at Hugo Lloris. Look, I mean, once again, his distribution is absolutely... I know it says 30 out of 35 accuracy, right? But his long balls, he's got less than 50% accuracy. Look, I thought he made a couple of decent saves in the first half, which bumped him up. But his distribution was woeful. And even the scrambling across the box at the end, he looked all out of sorts. He looked like his mind he looked like he'd lost concentration or he'd got frazzled by something. And let me know in the comments, guys, as we go through these, please give us all your ratings as well. For me, I mean... SofaScore gives him a 6.9. I think that's absolutely madness. Yeah. So for me, I think we'd have to give. I mean, me personally, I'll give Hugo a 5. It would have been worse, but I give him a 5 because of the couple of saves that he made. 5.5, perhaps, if I'm being cruel.
I'd give him a 6. I'd give him a 6.1, just because, like, at the end of the day, Hugo you can rely on him for his reactions. You can rely on him for his spring. You can rely on him to put in the miraculous saves. And yesterday he pulled off three decent saves, one punch away. He wasn't horrific. He did what he needed to do at certain points, but you cannot give him a 6.9 when he's trying to pass. As soon as the ball comes to his feet, every Tottenham fan in the world, their heart jumps into their throat. Do you know what I mean? And that's not good. And when you see him trying to pass the ball around, he's not that kind of keeper. He's not a sweeper keeper. When we get a new keeper to replace Hugo Lloris, it can't be someone the exact same mold as him. He's from a previous generation that just does not work anymore, and he should not be passing the ball around with his feet. He's just atrocious with his feet. Yeah. So for a couple of those really awful mistakes that could have led to goal scoring opportunities for West Ham, you got to drop him down. But I wouldn't go so bad as to drop him to a 5. I'd say 6.1.
Okay, I'll take that as well. I'll take that on board. 5 from Tom Marcannon. Must big up Tom. 5.5 from Paul G. Welcome to the channel, Paul. Appreciate the subscription, my man. Everyone, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. I'd love to be able to get up to 40 so likes today. It'd be great. I know it's very early in the day, so but your tiredness and your weariness shouldn't preclude you from smashing that like button for me if you appreciate that. Jimi Hendrix is saying Hugo gets a 6 out of 10 as well. Look, I'm going to move on to Davinson Sanchez. What's his name from Talk Sport? Who's the Tottenham fan at Talk Sport? Who's the Tottenham player, the ex-Tottenham player? What's his bloody name? I can't think of his name anymore. The midfielder. He sent out a tweet last night saying, why on earth can we stop bloody passing the ball back to the two Tottenham players who are worse with the ball at their feet in Davinson Sanchez and Hugo Lloris? Here's something I want to point out about Davinson Sanchez, okay? I do want you guys to be paying attention to the heat maps because I think there's a little trend that I'm starting to build a profile on around the way that Tottenham are playing and whether or not it's restricting Sonny. I've mentioned it in brief, but I'm going to be doing more on it over the next couple of days, looking into detail. Because I do think that when you've got Davinson Sanchez on the right-hand side, and keep in mind here, he's got 105 touches. I want you to remember that because it's something I noticed last night, right? 105 touches. His pass accuracy was pretty good. He only gave the ball away 11 times. His long ball, again, though, absolutely awful. He can't pass the ball from distance. Defensively, though, pretty solid, right? Four wins from 5 in the ground duels. 2 headers, 1 from 3, 3 clearances, 1 block shot, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles. Like defensively, I think he was good. But these days, if you're going to play 3 at the back, you need more than just defensive capability. I've been very, very positive about Davinson Sanchez, giving him a lot of praise over the last few games that he's been playing because he does generally keep clean sheets. That's why we're calling him Purcell. And but obviously that record of 9 hours without conceding is now gone. I don't personally think, Adam, that he was at fault defensively for many of the things that happened. Most of West Ham's attacks came down their right-hand side and attacked at Perisic, attacked at Ben Davies. Most of the time, our right-hand side, their left-hand side was fairly secure. So for me, I'd give Davinson Sanchez a 6.5, I think, or maybe I'd push it up. Maybe no, I would have given him a 7 for his defensive work, but I think you have to drop it down a bit because of his poor ability to distribute the ball.
I think 6.5 is exactly what I was going to go for as well, Sean. And you got to look at the stat where it says possession lost 12 times, long balls only 2 out of 7 were successful. He did have some clumsy moments, but none of them that really led to goal scoring opportunities for West Ham. He often recovers himself from his own mistakes. Davinson Sanchez is, I've said this before and people have mocked it. I'm not wrong in saying Davinson Sanchez is one of the fastest centre-backs in the Premier League. He's able to get back and cover his own ass.
He gallops.
If he gets dispossessed, he gets back and he sorts it out. Davinson Sanchez is a much, much better centre-back than people give him credit for. He has had his moments where he's had complete howlers in the past, but in the last 6 months, possibly more, he's been a tremendous backup for Christian Romero, considering that you think when you lose Romero, where it's like all hope is lost. Davinson Sanchez comes in and does a job, and I'm like 6.5 only because yes, he got dispossessed a couple of times yesterday where it was a little, it was quite sloppy, and then his long balls don't really come off. But yeah, 6.5 is very, very solid, very, very solid performance from him, considering that we're not playing at our absolute best.
I just want to pivot for a quick moment over here to the passing stats and this is just this season, of Ben Davies, Eric Dyer, Romero, Sanchez, and Hugo Lloris, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to just start with them untoggled and say that people saying that Ben Davies isn't particularly very, very good either. He's had 15 progressive passes over the 5 games, an average. Let's go to toggle by 90 actually to make it fair. So 3.85 progressive passes per 90, which is the ball moving forward 10 yards into the opposition 40% of the pitch. You compare that to Davinson Sanchez, that has only done it 1 time over the 3 games he's played. Christian Romero, who actually on the two games versus 5 games is actually doing it just as well. So as Ben Davies, if you extrapolate that form out, I think it's worth remembering how much, obviously it doesn't take me to remind everyone, but Christian Romero is somebody that on the right-hand side can make those progressive passes. Without him, knowing how bad Davinson Sanchez is and knowing how bad Emerson Royale is, it forces the team down the left-hand side, which takes the pressure off of Davinson Sanchez. and Emerson Royale to create the opportunities on the right. But what it also does is it pushes the opposition team are going to be aware of that. It pushes Ben Davies further up the pitch onto the left-hand side. It pushes Perisic even further up the pitch on the left-hand side. It naturally draws opposition players across. And then it means that Sonny is crowded out. So I want to take this opportunity to give a little bit of a shout out to Sonny, because he has been playing badly, but it's not just necessarily because he's off the ball. I think it's because he is being forced to come inside and play more centrally, because Perisic is taking his natural position. And consequently, Sonny doesn't have the ability to move further with the ball round onto his right foot. He's already central anyway. And so I do think that the consequences of losing Romero, the indirect effects of losing Romero are felt further into the team than just at defensive actions. I think it strangles Sonny's ability to do what he does best, which is run in behind and to be able to create space for himself and use his pace.
Just to add to that, Sean, if I may, it's frustrating that I'm speaking to the Spurs fan base and I'm not kind of getting Conte's response to this, because I really would love to know what he thinks. But what you're saying there is absolutely right in terms of Sonny is being pushed into a position where he's vying for space with other players around him. I cannot understand why it seems that this season Harry Kane has been told, look, you are a number 9, push forward, you stay up front, you're going to do all your business about as far forward as you possibly can, be the furthest player forward. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Harry Kane is our De Bruyne, our Kevin De Bruyne. That guy can pass to anyone on the pitch perfectly from anywhere else on the pitch. He's just outstanding. If he was someone playing deep, he's a number 10. He's a number 9 and number 10 mixed together. But considering we don't have any other number 10s,
he's a 9.5.
He's a 9.5. If Harry played a little bit deeper and he was playing just in front of the double pivot, and Son was able to move slightly more central, I think you'd get way more of that Son-Kane
relationship
dynamic back. Yeah. Sonny is the number 9. Yeah. Sonny is not the number 10. Sonny is the number 9 that you want playing furthest forward, that as soon as we're ready to release the ball, he goes sprinting. You get the long ball to him. He gets it, sorts it out, bang the back of the net. He can play more centrally if Kane played deeper, and Kane was amazing. The season he won the Golden Boot and got most assists, he was playing in the number 10. Yep. Why are we not playing Harry Kane in the number 10? It makes no sense. I really just find that absolutely maddening. He needs to play deeper. Sonny played further centrally.
And hopefully
I had to get that off my chest.
No, I love it, mate. I love what you're saying. Hopefully these things will sort. Like if we can still go through these 5 games undefeated whilst trying to adapt to a new system, trying to adapt to 7 new players or 6 new players joining the first team squad. Whilst also playing some really tough fixtures away from home, I think that's another reason why we should be positive, that we're still finding a way to get it done whilst figuring it out. The last thing I wanted to point out from this stat before we crack on back to the player stats, the player ratings, is if you look at Hugo Lloris, right, he's got for medium passes, which is anything between 10 and I think it's 10 and 30 meters long, which is most of his passes, he's got 100% accuracy. When it comes to long balls, he drops down to 57%, 32 out of 56. But look at Eric Dyer. A lot of people, myself included, until I saw this stat, a lot of people would have said that Eric Dyer's distribution at central centre-back is actually pretty poor. But when it comes to long balls, 52 from 67, a 77% attempt rate on a lot of attempts. 77.6% completion rate on a lot of attempts. 52 from 67, I think, is actually pretty impressive. And when you combine that by looking at how many passes he is making into the final third of the pitch, he's done 7 so far, only beaten by Ben Davies. And Ben Davies obviously has the luxury of being in the final third of the pitch because his natural heat map is pushing him. His average heat map position is actually inside the opposition area, which isn't something that you can offer to Eric Dyer. So I think we need to pay a little bit more respect to Eric Dyer's ability to distribute. I think that Eric Dyer's problems are defensive rather than his ability with the ball at his feet. I don't think he's great, but he's not bad. And I think the stats prove that. Ben Davies is also very, particularly accurate with his passing. And I thought yesterday in the first half, Ben Davies was making some pretty delicious progressive passes as well. But it's unfortunate that when you have the right-hand side occupied by 2 players that can't do much with the ball at their feet offensively, it forces Tottenham into shifting and twisting and distorting the formation to take the pressure off of them in doing that. We can't, the argument of whether or not, I used to make the argument that if Sanchez is defending well, then he has to make a mistake before Romero comes back in. I think that was a very naive concept that I used to put forward. Right now, I think it's clear as day that whoever is the first back to full fitness, whether it's Matt Doherty or Romero, one or both have to come into the team in order to rebalance the team, because other teams now can look at that and target our left side. And I want to talk about that now as we quickly go back to the player ratings, right? So I asked you guys to keep a lookout for the touches, 105 touches for Davinson Sanchez. Before I go into Eric Dyer in any real detail, Adam, I just want to show you again 119 touches for Eric Dyer. Compare that to Ben Davies, who we've just seen is the best person distributing the ball from the back three in terms of how progressive he can do it, and how many times he gets the ball into the final third, which is obviously where we need the ball to be. Ben Davies only touched the ball 66 times yesterday. Eric Dyer touched the ball 119 times, twice as many times as Ben Davies, and yet he was forced to look right towards Davinson Sanchez, who touched the ball 105 times, rather than Ben Davies, who only touched the ball 66 times. Why is that? That, in my opinion, is because West Ham targeted the high press in that direction. They pushed and they pressed down our left-hand side so that Sanchez and Dyer and Hugo Lloris were forced to do their little mini triangles before they could try and get the ball out, because the high press from Anthony, from Fornals, from Souček, etc., was very deliberate to try and target down our right-hand side defensively. And I think it was very well executed by them. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes sense what you're saying. I do think one of the things you're pointing out there with regards to Eric Dyer, he does get slept on quite a lot. I think that people saying that while we have Eric Dyer as our first choice central centre back, we're not gonna progress, we're not gonna improve. The guy we cannot underestimate how much he has improved under Conte and the impact that he has in terms of him keeping the order in that back three, making sure that he's calling the shots, he's doing it in multiple languages, he's able to get everyone kind of maneuvering in the way they need to, and in the way that we're playing at the moment. We're able to be a lot more progressive on the left. It does what you're saying. What you're saying, Sean, is right. But the only way that it leaves us kind of a little bit open is that when we don't really have several different ways of playing, right? It's that exact. That's how we're. That's our formation. That's our setup. That's our strategy. Every single game. And when people know that, they are going to have, as you're saying, West Ham have their strategy of they were going to come down one particular flank, because they know the way that we're playing, they know the way that we operate. So it makes us a little bit predictable. But as long as the players are performing to the level that they, to minimum the level that they're performing at the moment, and hopefully they will, we'll get to the stage where we're as dominant as we were at the end of last season. Then people can be as we can be as predictable as we like. As long as the players are doing the job that they need to do in those areas, we'll still be coming away, please God, with considerably more goals than we are likely to concede. Yeah. I totally agree with you, mate. Listen, it's 11:30. Do you need to jump off right now? No, I can do another 10. Okay, perfect. Nice one, mate. We'll get through this pretty quickly then. Eric Dyer, I mentioned that the touches, the accuracy of the passes, 104 from 110 is bang on, very, very good. Long balls, unfortunately, he wasn't as successful this last night as he would have been in the past. 4 clearances, 1 interception, 1 tackle. He won his ground duel. Wasn't particularly great in the air. What do you want to give him as a rating? Absolutely none of the kind of sloppiness going on yesterday that I can remember, that I can recollect, was due to Eric Dyer. He was basically solid, his usual self in the center of the defense. He didn't do anything spectacular, didn't do anything to stand out either. Although, as you're saying, his pass accuracy is outstanding. And 4 clearances as well. I think 6.5 is a fair one for him, to be fair. Absolutely no. Well, no. Do you know what? I will say 6.8, the same as SofaScore, because if I'm going to give Davinson Sanchez a 6.5, even though he was a little bit sloppy at points, it's only fair to give Dyer a little bit more credit. 6.8.
Yeah, no worries. I would point out with the pass accuracy though, a lot of those passes were short passes when they were just doing those little triangle back and forths, right? So, but that's fine. I'll probably give him a 6.5. Yeah, it didn't really strike me as doing too much wrong or too much right, so I was giving him a solid 6.5. And then Ben Davies will just polish off these centre backs quickly. For me, as much as I think his long balls were slightly better today or last night. With the ball moving forward, I thought he was pretty good in the first half, but like everything that we struggled with defensively was down their side. Now, whether that's a consequence of us pushing up down that side as well and then getting caught out when we lose the ball because of mistakes from Bissouma. Bissouma did get run past quite a few times and then the ball got released down the right when Ben Davies and Perisic were further up the field. So I think there's a consequence to putting that additional offensive pressure on the left. And that does come with maybe negatives for their defensive capabilities. But you can't hide from the fact that he did switch off for the goal. And a lot of the chances that came West Ham's way all started down his side. So for me, I think you'd have to give him a 5.5, maybe a 5.
Really?
I'd say so, yeah.
I'd probably be a little bit more generous and give him a 6. I don't think there were any real failures that would would cause me to bring him down below that. There was, I don't think any of the kind of areas where he was starting to kind of decrease in his quality throughout the game meant that led to us, slipping up in any severe way. At worst, 5.8, 5.9. I just don't feel like at the moment that
you're getting straight into decimals. You're going like 5.861.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, well, we'll give him
a bit more specific,
We'll give him a 6. We'll give him a 6 then, if you or 5, 5.5, 6, whatever, something like that. Right, let's move across back to. Let's stick on the left hand side. Look at Ivan Perisic. It's a tale of two tactics, right? I think is it clear to say for me, or I'll let you start on this one.
No, you're absolutely right. In the defense, it was quite sloppy. There were moments, in fairness to him, where he's so confident. This is a lad who's so he really, really knows that he's leagues and leagues above the vast majority of the players that he's coming up against. You know what I mean? 33 years old. He's been there, done that, won all sorts, and he's super experienced in the role that he's in as well. Going forward, he was tremendous. Some great crosses going in, holding up the ball really well. And in the defense, he's able to hold on to the ball calm as you like once he's in possession. But there were a few moments where he did dip off, and he looked a little bit like he was taking things too easy almost. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want to. I think Perisic is going to be absolutely tremendous. I think he's going to be a revelation for the team, and I don't want to start talking down about him at the moment just because he's had a little bit of a kind of a he hit the snooze button one or two times throughout the game. Would I give him a 7.1? No, but of all the players we've mentioned, he did have the most impact, I think, on
offensively.
Yeah. And I it wasn't like he was doing nothing in the back line. It's just he definitely kind of at times that's where he was letting us down. Yeah. I still think 6.5 though. I don't think that he was awful given that what he brings to the attacking to the creativity of the team.
Yeah, I agree. I would have given him a 7.5 purely for his consistent dribbles. Like it's kind of like he's got like a lazy, languid step over thing, but it's very difficult because he does it with such rhythm and cadence that he can just do that. Just like there's no he's not giving anything away with the speed of his step overs. It's very consistent, and then he just decides at the last minute to go left or right, and he can go either way. Took it to the byline 2 or 3 times and put good crosses in. I think there's a consequence to our forward line not having had people that can cross the ball very well over the last couple of seasons, which means that they no longer get into the correct positions for where they should be being for expected crosses to coming in. And I think Perisic was let down a little bit by some of the forwards not being in the right position to take advantage of delicious crosses that Perisic put in. And I think you can make the same argument, which we'll come to in a minute, for Emerson. Emerson put in an absolutely delicious cross on the turn in the first half into into the area, and there was no strikers there. And I think it's because for the last God knows however many seasons, we haven't had anybody, not Sessegnon, not Reguilon, not Doherty, not Emerson, nobody or Serge Aurier who can really whip the ball in consistently into the right areas. And Perisic yesterday took 2 or 3 crosses. It says here that he had 8 crosses, 4 of them were complete. 4 of them were met by Tottenham players. The other 4 were all, or 3 of the other 4 from memory, were put into the right area. There was just nobody there. So exactly. I think he's being unduly punished for that. I would have given him a 7.5 for his offensive, but you have to take a point down, or at least a half a point, because he did completely switch off when the ball went out for a throw-in. He was turning around, wasn't even looking at the defence and walking back, like just talking and muttering to himself. And then the ball got thrown over his head. So he has to take his fair share of responsibility for the defensive idiocy that happened between the 4 or 5 players there. For me, I'll give him a 7. And I'm really excited by this guy. I think he's going to.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing you got to say. He's showing a serious potential for what he can do for us going forward. For the rest of the season.
100%, mate. We're going to try and get through as many of these quickly now as we can to squeeze through before you've got to jump. Emerson Royale. Let's try and speed up for this. We're taking a bit too long, I think.
He's getting better every game. Getting better every game, Emerson Royale. Like defensively, I think he's absolutely tremendous. Now, I do think that he has to share a little bit of responsibility with Højbjerg for the fact that the person who scored, I can't remember who the heck it was that scored now for West Ham, but Højbjerg should have been marking him.
No, was it Souček?
Højbjerg should have been marking him. And then Emerson Royal wasn't paying any attention to the fact that Emerson could, if he was a bit closer to goal, could have provided an obstacle for the attack as well, and he didn't. So he was like there's so many players switched off. You have to include Emerson in that, unfortunately, but. Defensively, generally speaking, absolutely fantastic, and he's getting better and better and better going forward. At least he's looking up and he's making the crosses now. He's attempting the crosses. He will only get better as he puts this into practice more and more and more. I think Emerson was a solid 7 yesterday.
I agree as well. Yeah, I actually thought Emerson. For me, the men of the match were either Emerson Royale or Perisic. I gave Emerson Royale an 8 on Spurs related, and then I got knocked down to a 7 because the other boys. After the show, they taught me down from an 8 to a 7. But I thought Emerson Royale was great again yesterday. And I just want to quickly point out, Paul G, I completely forgot about the cross. I forgot all about that handball, the penalty that was given that never was, that was taken back. That was absolute.
Yeah. That wasn't yesterday
though. Oh, when was that?
That was against. That was the other game.
Forest,
yeah.
There was a penalty given yesterday.
Yeah, but that wasn't the handball. That was...
it wasn't. Remember, it hit the guy's face and then hit his hand.
Oh, they talk about that one. I thought
that was Perisic as well. That was Perisic's cross on both occasions. Perisic, the one that was...
Yeah. His crosses are delicious. His crosses are delicious, let's be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I'm going to give Emerson a 7.5. I thought he was great, and I think he's getting better. I do want to see him... I need to see Romero back so we can even up, balance out the team again and let Emerson... do his thing and see if he can really improve. Quickly, super chat from my man, Dermatron. Thank you so much, Dermatron. Love you, man. He's saying 8 points up on last season, 3 wins, 2 draws, unbeaten. Yes, last night feels like a loss, but we third in the league. Just hoping for a centre-back today. Great show, guys. Thanks, Dermatron. Mate, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, buddy. I didn't think it felt like a loss to me last night. I felt like if you'd said to me before the game, would I take a draw? I probably would say no because I always think we are capable against West Ham. But in the grand scheme of things, a point away at Upton Park it's never an easy place to play for any team, let alone when West Ham, it's their cup final, right? Yeah. And we've gotten 2 of our toughie away fixtures out of the way already. We've got a lot more coming. We've got Man City coming. We've got Arsenal coming. But by the time we go to the World Cup, if we're still in 3rd spot in the league, by the time we break for the World Cup, we're going to be in a brilliant position for the second half of the season because we will have all of the top 6 teams, with the exception of Liverpool, to play at home, not away from home. And that's the place where you can obviously put on a better performance and get more points and hopefully take points back away from those other teams that you hopefully haven't dropped points to in the first half of the season. Dermatron, thank you so much for the super chat, my man. Right, moving on. How long? I mean, how much can I squeeze 5 more minutes out of you, or do you have to go?
Yeah. Okay, we'll do Do 11:45, and then I'll have to swiftly drive off.
Let's just do Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, and then I can let you go, mate. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg is the guy that you don't like as much, but you've given him a lot of credit over the last 4 or 5 games. What were your thoughts on him yesterday?
I think again, it's one of those situations where, like, a significant amount of the game, he was doing a lot more than he used to do. I always got pissed off with him because I said he flatters to deceive. He's always passing the ball back consistently, asking for the ball to be given to him, and then giving it straight back to the person he called in the first place. So he's stat padding. And it was too many back passes, not enough progressive passes. Now he seems to be holding up the ball better. He's doing a lot of blocks that are absolutely imperative. Well, not necessarily in the game that we just saw, but in previous games this season. Really great shot blocking and much more progressive play out of him lately. That said, obviously, very sloppy with Bootgate and not getting that sorted out as quickly as possible, not getting his head back in the game as soon as he'd sorted that out. Too much pissing around, talking to the ref. He was way too lackadaisical. He needs to get his head together and be like, no, I still need to prove myself. I still need to make sure that I'm keeping my first team place in the squad. I would give. It's so difficult. It's between a 6 and a 6.5 because he's, I thought the rest of his game was fine apart from that stupid nonsense going on that led to the goal.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I don't know what exactly was going on. Obviously, I think that I don't know whether the boot was damaged in the tackle, right? But the one thing I think you have to give Højbjerg credit for is there's no way, I don't care, unless you're made of rubber, there's no way that ankle, like his ankle went almost round like 360 on an axis. It could have easily been a break. It could have easily been a dislocation. Declan Rice, it was a fair challenge, I think. A lot of people said it wasn't. I think it was a fair challenge. He got the ball first, but then he went through the ankle as well. And Højbjerg looked in absolute pain. He got up, he shook it off, he ran on. Obviously, the boot thing was weird. Maybe the boot was broken or damaged in the tackle, but if he looked at the bench, if he knew that, this is back to my point about Ollie Skip being available but not available, like not fully fit. If he knows that Ollie Skip is nowhere near fully fit yet to play in the system, and that Pape Sarr is basically untested in such an important game, I think you have to almost give Pierre-Emile Højbjerg an extra half a point than you otherwise would have done for being such an absolute beast of a human being and playing through the pain. Because I can only imagine today he's woken up with a very swollen foot, and I hope he's fit again. Because you might not know that maybe the adrenaline or whatever was pumping through him, carried him through. But
he is a Viking after all.
He is a Viking.
So are we giving him 6.5?
Yeah. What did you give him? You gave him a 6. Did you?
I said 6 or 6.5, depending on how much you thought that screw up kind of takes it away from him. But you're right in what you're saying as well. He did play on through what looked like. I mean, if my ankle twisted like that, I'd be gone.
Straight away. Yeah. So. Yeah. Get a stretcher. Really make a meal out of it. Get everyone's sympathy. I personally would have given him a 6.5 or even pushed it up to a 7. If we're going to go decimals, I'd go 6.7 or something. But
6.7. Okay.
I thought he was really good. And I think he's been absolutely brilliant for us this season. And I love the fact. Last thing I'll say on him, I love the fact that he has taken the threat of somebody breathing down his neck like Bissouma, who everybody at the start of the season would have said, in all likelihood, when the dust settles and everyone's like, fully fit and understands the tactics, the starting 11 will include Bissouma and Bentancur more than it will Højbjerg. But Højbjerg has sat there and went, fuck that. I'm Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I'm going to up my game and prove to everybody that I'm the number one centre midfielder. And I would hope that Sonny, put aside the tactical stuff that we're looking at and trying to figure out whether or not the tactics have impacted his performances, just on Sonny's mentality, the way Sonny seems to be interpreting and seems to be like receiving this threat to his place, which he hasn't had to face before, not at international nor at Tottenham. I think that if Sonny could embrace the Højbjerg mentality of, Richarlison's not taking my place, I'm going to up my game, then I think it would be far better for the team. I'd like to give Højbjerg an awful lot of credit. So 6.7 for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes all the sense in the world. Look, I just obviously because I got to jump off, Sean. I'll just very quickly rattle through these if that's all right.
Yeah. Go, crack on.
Yves Bissouma, I heard a lot of people giving out about him yesterday. I think that he's showing a lot of potential. He's still trying to bet himself into the side. He hasn't been given that many minutes so far, so he hasn't had the opportunity to play with these guys. He hasn't had the opportunity to gel with the system outside of on the training pitch. I think he's going to improve consistently. We saw how good he was for Brighton yesterday. I don't think he was terrible. I heard a lot of people saying that he was brutal. I don't think that he was bad. His long ball accuracy, you see there, is very, very good. His pass percentage, 94%. Ground duels weren't great, and air duels weren't great. Okay, he's going to have to improve in those areas. But the fact is, he looks confident when he's on the ball. He is definitely able to progress. He looks strong. He's quick. And there were no cock-ups that led to anything severe yesterday whatsoever from Yves Bissouma. Solid performance. I give him a 6.5. And then just on the front three, I think what they've got there is relatively accurate. Sonny, you might have to drop him down. Sonny looks like he is trying harder. He tried harder yesterday. There were just a couple of really unfortunate moments where the ball was played to him going forward, and he's running onto the ball as with the afterburners as you'd expect, and he's just not. He hasn't got the control, and he hasn't got the accuracy that we know that he is capable of. So I would only give him a 5.5 for yesterday, just based on the fact
I'd give him a 5, to be honest.
Yeah, I give him a 5.5 only because he's improving on the previous weeks. I can see him trying harder. I can see that he's not letting it get to him. He's trying to get into the spaces. He's running on. He's doing what he's got to do. He's just missing the quality that we know he has. But form is temporary. Class is permanent. Yeah. He will come back. He will absolutely 100% bounce back. Decky, I'd give him a 6.5 for it, but basically purely on his effort and the fact that he was linking with Harry Kane for that goal at the beginning. He passed to Harry. Harry whips it across the box, and then they scored their own goal. Decky does an awful lot for the team. He's quickly becoming one of my absolute favorite players we've ever had. So much effort being put in. What are any of the front three at the level that they need to be right now? No, but for effort,
definitely not. Yeah,
and no cock-ups on his part really. 6.5. I'd give to Decky, and then Kane. Obviously, you're doing what you do have to give him.
Look at that heat map. He was all over the place yesterday.
He was. He takes control of the game. He was absolutely solid yesterday. I would give him a 7. I've got no qualms with Kane's performance whatsoever. And
Richarlison.
I get you can't because of
I know he only had 20 minutes, but
he didn't have very long. But talk about an impact sub. I think he's tremendous when he comes on. He shows grit. He's got pace. He's got strength, and he's a flair player. He comes on and he makes his presence known immediately. 6.8 is very fair for a guy who comes on and is able to make an instant impact, add life and add energy to the game. He's such an improvement on Lucas Moura, and I think that's a fair assessment.
All right, mate. Thank you so much for swinging through. Oh, just have you got one more minute? Just last question for you. What do you make of Conte not making only making one change? Do you think it was a consequence of the shape of the bench? Do you think it was a message to the board that we need more tomorrow? I need somebody, or do you think it's more just down to the fact that Conte doesn't like to make changes?
I think that Conte is very set in his ways. We know he doesn't have lots of different strategies. It's interesting to see. It's so interesting to see that on a number of occasions we've seen Kulusevski get subbed off for Bissouma and he's switched to a 3-5-2. I love that, but it's happened rarely. We don't know. He does seem to be very, very set in his 3-4-3 formation. I think he and when he does subs, they tend, apart from that Kulu Bissouma situation, they tend to be like for like. I think that at the moment, a lot of the players on that bench are either not tactically ready or not physically ready, and that's why he didn't make any more subs than because in the very first game he made a load of subs late. But I think he made 4 or 5 subs, but he just made them late. Yeah. I think he needs the players to start getting ready. Skip's coming off an injury. Doherty's coming off an injury. Clement Lenglet isn't ready just yet, probably in terms of the system. Lucas Moura was injured, wasn't even on the bench. I think he possibly would have been brought on to add a bit more of a creative, attacking advantage to the team if he was there.
Bentancur wasn't there. Yeah,
wasn't there. So I mean, it could be a message to the board.
Brian Hill wasn't. Was Brian Hill on the bench?
No, and the thing is that we just one of the notifications
on the pitch either.
I
He's out. There you go.
yeah, and one of the messages that popped up on, like, I've obviously got the transfer news coming up on as alerts on my phone. Apparently, Brian Hill to Valencia is off.
Yeah, someone
That's not
said
gonna
that in
happen
the
now.
comments. Yeah.
So maybe we hold on to him. Maybe he comes on and he makes a bit of an impact. Who knows? And who knows how that's going to affect this Dan James situation.
I'd listen. If we're going to loan Dan James with the benefit of just of sending him back to Leeds at the end of the year, then you might as well have Brian Hill, because I'd rather develop one of our, in the few minutes that they're going to play. I'd rather develop our player than somebody else's.
That's
fair.
And
I don't think there's much difference between the two anyway in terms of excitement. So,
yeah.
Although I know that for the mental health of certain sections of the fan base, we need somebody better. Let's hope we get a Carrasco. Adam, I know you got to go, mate. We're 20 minutes over your deadline. I do really appreciate you stopping by for this early one today, mate. Safe journey with your dad to the airport, and I'll see you back on here in maybe later today or tomorrow or something. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, everybody stay positive about the transfer window, please. No matter what happens, we are 8 points above what we were last season. It's such a great time to be a Spurs fan. Enjoy it.
Cheers, Adam. Take care, mate. Love
God
you,
bless. Take care, Andy. Bye-bye.
Big up, Adam. Big up, my man. Yeah, look, I'm just going to finish off, guys, where I was. What happened? Here's my formations. I'm going to finish up. So for me, I thought Yves Bissouma. I disagreed a little bit with Adam. I think that Yves Bissouma yesterday was I think he really struggled. I think he was beaten too easily by Declan Rice and Fornals in the first half. They did a little pass, a 1-2 pass around him, and he was so slow. He was like a big ship trying to turn around as well, which isn't something I'd ever normally associate with Yves Bissouma. He's got a very low center of gravity and he is very quick, but he looked completely out of sorts in the first half. He did grow into the game. I think he got better as the game went on, but for me, he was definitely the weaker of the two midfielders. And I just think that when Conte says he's not tactically fit, I think that makes a lot of sense. He hasn't played in this system before at Southampton. Where was he? Southampton. And I think it will take time to learn Conte's system. I think it always does take time to learn Conte's system, to learn the roles and responsibilities, the pace of the game, where to be looking to be passing and who to expect to be where. And I don't think Yves Bissouma has that yet in his settled in his mind. Of course, he's going to be a superstar for Tottenham. We've got to be patient with him. But on the day, I think he was one of our weaker players. And then talking about Kulu, Sonny and Kane. Yeah, listen, I was using the phrase last night, Toblerone forehead, because I've never seen Sonny or anybody else like head the ball here and it bounce off of here. Like, I don't know what's going on with the guy. His confidence is obviously rattled. And I don't know what the solution is. You have to be careful with someone who's obviously very sensitive. You have to be careful, in my opinion, with how you rotate him. Not use the word drop, not use the word, so you careful of your verbiage on how you kind of frame it. But it's not just Heung-min Son's sensitivities you have to worry about. If he's playing badly like he is, and we have to acknowledge that whilst he's trying, he isn't anywhere near his full fitness. I'm not saying that anyone should lose faith in him. Of course, class is permanent and form is temporary. But the more that you mollycoddle a player who you see as a superstar, who hasn't had to have the threat of being rested, dropped, or rotated for his international team, he's a god in South Korea. And whilst he's a very humble and nice guy, that kind of godlike status has to sink in on some level into your ego. And for me, taking off Decky, unless it was because he wanted to keep Decky fresh for Fulham, knowing that he's probably going to put Richarlison in for Sonny against Fulham. If that's the case, then I'll accept it. But taking off Decky when Decky was far more effective than Sonny, just to play to the sensitivities of Sonny, I think it's bad news for the team. I also think you have to worry about not just the mental health of Sonny, but I think you also have to consider the mental health of Richarlison. Like, what does Richarlison have to do to get more than 20 minutes? Every single time he's come on the pitch, he's looked busy, he's looked energetic, he's looked engaged, exciting. I'm not entirely convinced if Richarlison's going to be a game changer coming off the bench. He doesn't seem like the sort of player like you could put towards like a Saint Maximum or someone that's going to come on, or even an Adama Traore, and have that massive impact. I think that Richarlison is not that kind of player from what I've seen of him in a Tottenham shirt. I think he comes on with energy, but I don't necessarily think he's a game changer late on. And so, whereas I think someone like Sonny could be in the opposite environment, I think you have to be very careful. I think Conte's got a job on his hands. He needs to speak to a sports psychologist or somebody to figure out the way in which to embrace Sonny as the superstar that he is, but also make him realize that the team is more important and that there needs to be rotation, and it needs to be based on tactics and on merit. And on merit right now, you have to. You'd be hard pushed to say on merit, short-term merit. You have to say that Richarlison deserves a start, and that of the two people that are going to be up for rotation, that Decky deserves his place above Sonny. And if you don't do that, if you keep Sonny in the team because you're worried about his sensitivity, I think that can have knock-on effects, indirect effects to other players in the team as well. I don't think it sends the right message. I thought on the day Sonny was, once again, I thought he tried, but I thought he was relatively poor. He had 2 block shots, nothing on target, nothing off target. He only touched the ball 35 times. In 90 minutes, relatively uneventful, relatively anonymous again. And then defensively, he was woeful. Not that that's a massive thing, but you do need people to participate. He only won one of his 5 ground duels. That's not even defensive. That was actually just up the pitch. He was just pushed off the ball too easily by Soufal and Kira. So yeah, I think that Sonny for me gets a 5.5, or maybe a 5 if I'm entirely honest again. Have I seen the pass map? Says CJ Young. The pass map. No, I haven't seen the pass map. I'm not sure where you'd find that. Is that on a different statistics website? Is it? Yeah. 24Z saying Kulu was creating more. It was to help Son stay positive. We all know it exactly. And I think that's a concern. Like Sonny's like there's more to worry about in the mental health of a squad than just Sonny, right? How frustrating would it be for Richarlison? But Sean, R9 came on and set up Kane last game. Yeah, no, I know he did. I'm not saying, sorry, I'm not suggesting that he's not an important person to have on the pitch and what he can do. I just wonder whether or not what I've seen of him with the ball, I just don't know whether he's going to have that kind of game changer. It's a difficult word to break down how I feel. Maybe the word game changer is wrong. I'm just not entirely sure if he's the sort of guy that's going to come on and, and open teams up, or like create space, like a little trick here, little trick there. Maybe he is, and I don't want to come across like I'm judging too soon, but I feel like he's a brilliant player, but I think he's a player that needs to be involved more and that will need more than possibly just one moment, which is when you look at like impact players or game-changing players who come on late, some of those people only need like one, like an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer only ever needed 1 minute in the last few seconds, one chance in the last few moments of a game. I'm not entirely sure if Richarlison is that sort of player. He's brilliant in a million ways, but I don't know if he's that sort of player. Time will tell, and I'm open-minded. Who else we got to speak about? Kulusevski. Yeah, look, I thought Kulusevski again. It wasn't his greatest game. He only touched the ball 35 times as well, which is surprising. And he had no shots. He had two block shots. So you could make the same on the stats. At least you could make the same argument that you could about Sonny. I would argue that I think that Decky was more involved creatively with the ball at his feet, and he did kind of bring the ball through. The overlap that he did with for the first goal, the overlap where he did that mazy dribble when he waited. I think it was for Harry Kane to overlap him. That was just absolutely sublime football from Decky and Kane to time that pass just deliciously. He also did many other passes where he put Harry Kane through several other times in the first half as well. And I thought Decky had a far better game, even though the stats don't show it necessarily. The direct stats, if you can think back and go back a few steps that aren't necessarily picked up by the stat machine here, then you see that Decky had a lot more engagement and involved in the game. And Harry Kane, penultimately, I thought like he had 48 touches. He was definitely more involved by a factor of almost 50% or 40% than the other two guys up front. He was coming deep. Look at that as a heat map. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, guys. If we're being honest, right? Do you want your number 9 to be found as frequently at the right wing back spot, or on the centre circle, or in the left wing back, or in the left forward spot as you do in the centre circle? Like that, there's where is the heat map for him being there? And that's the problem I was talking about earlier when it comes to Perisic crossing the ball in. Like Perisic having that ability with that consistent cadence of his step overs, which makes it incredibly unpredictable to know when the guy's going to drop his shoulder and go left or right. But either way, it leads to situations where the ball's getting crossed in, but we don't have our number 10 in the box because he's too busy being pulled out to create things here. Now, Sonny should be, if Harry Kane's doing this and you have Perisic up here, then obviously it should be Sonny that's more naturally floating into the middle. But Sonny's not very good in the air, or at least he scores very few goals in the air relative to what else he does. And so for me, it's a little bit of a concern to see Harry Kane have to have such a diverse and spread out heat map. But all in all, I think that it was necessary on the day for him to come back and be more involved in the game. I give him a 7. I thought he wasn't the best player on the pitch. I don't think he was anything like the worst player on the pitch. For me, the man of the match has to go to either Perisic or Royale. I thought that Perisic was the best going forward, but obviously you had to knock a point down on him for his defensive frailties. And Emerson, I thought, was very good defensively. And the couple of times when he did get the ball forward, he did whip the ball in. Once again, though, there was nobody in the box to meet those crosses, and that I think is a testament to how lacking in trust Tottenham's forward line, or people like Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who should be moving forward in those situations, have in the ability, historically at least, of our wing backs to be able to whip the ball into dangerous areas. I don't know if you guys are agreeing with me or not. Let me have a look at me, see if there's anything in the comments. I think I'm up to date. Smash that like button for me, guys. Smash that like button for me. Let's see if we can get to, I don't know how many likes are we on right now. We're on 38. Can we get to 50 likes? There's 50 of you here. Love it if the people that haven't hit the like button could do that for me on this bright and early Thursday morning. Oh, it's the afternoon now. It's 12 o'clock. And the last person I want to talk about is Richarlison. Yeah, I've already spoken about him. I think he came on that little touch the very first thing he did when he let the ball roll through his legs. He does look like a very... he's going to be a crowd favourite for sure, isn't he? And I'm someone that's I hold my hands up. When he first came in at £60 million valuation, I was one of the people in the community, probably one of the few people that wasn't excited by him. But he's won me over in the combined, whatever it is, 80 minutes of football that he's played over the last 5 games. Every time he's come on, he's looked busy, he's looked engaging, passionate and active. And I think that's something that we should all be really excited about going forward. There's no one else. There's no one else because we don't seem to feel the need to play any of these guys. Listen, I understand. I said this at the start of the show. I understand that this particular bench looked bereft and devoid of any attacking options. But I do think we need to remember that our bench and our start to our season has been riddled by long-term injuries to Oliver Skipp. I just don't think he's fit enough yet. Clearly, he's not fit enough. I think if he was fit enough and chomping at the bit, I think Højbjerg might have been subbed earlier than he was because I do think that ankle injury will be sore today. And I think that without Lucas Moura, obviously that's just an injury that hopefully will be figured out soon. And then obviously the bench would look far stronger had we had Bentancur on it. But we've got injury, or Romero on it. We've got injuries that we're dealing with. We've got players that are out of form. And last thing I'll say, guys, is that despite all of that, despite the fact that our bench we've got 7 players that for whatever reason are unfit physically, tactically, or in form. And despite that, we've played 5 of, I think we've got the second or third hardest start to the season of any of the teams in the Premier League. And we've got rid of 2 away ties in London derbies already. And we've come out of it unscathed, undefeated. We're third in the table. There's a lot of reasons to be positive. Sure, there's work to be done. But imagine how good we're going to be when the team clicks and gels and we get into second or third gear. I understand everyone who wants to see it from a different lens. I'm not saying that your opinions are wrong or negative or any of those things. I think you all have valid reasons to feel the way that you do. I personally just choose to view it through a glass half full approach because I think that there's enough reasons to be positive. And for me, I'd rather keep that mindset because I'd spend too much time thinking about Tottenham. And if I was to see it through the very valid opposite lens, it would spoil my week. Guys, I'm going to be back here at 6 p.m. For the 3rd episode of Free Flowing Tottenham with Dave from the Irish Hotspur. And I will be doing updates if there's any major ones, depending on what happens with the transfer window today. Try and keep a rose-tinted spectacles view if you can, guys. It's better than it could have been. 8 points more than we had at this stage last season from the same fixtures. 11 points from 15. Come on, you Spurs. I love you all. Please hit that like button for me before you go. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so that you know when we go live. And on this channel, we go live very impromptu. I literally spoke to Adam and said at 10:40, I said, can you go live? He said, I've only got 40 minutes. I said, okay, let's do it. And we went live 3 minutes later. So that's the way we do it. So hit that notification bell so you're always going to be aware as soon as we go live. I love you all. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, guys... Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I do apologise. I want to say thank you to Dermatron for the super chat as well. Big up Dermatron. And thank you to everyone who's participated this morning in the conversation. I love and appreciate all of your time and attention. Guys, I will see you this afternoon. As always, guys. As always,